Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. How are you feeling today? Happy Hump Day and happy March. Is March the month that goes in like a lion and out like a lamb? Is lion a word? No, lion is a word though. Or is that April? I can't remember. Or is it April showers bring May flowers? I don't know. The backyard in my house is already starting to look a little bit green. How about yours? Welcome to the Wake Up America show. We're so glad to have you here today. Make sure you click like if you're watching us on YouTube today. And if you're listening to us after the audio on the audio podcast, just so you know, today's show is going to feature a lot of video clips. So if you're listening to us afterwards on the audio podcast, it's always great for you to join us live on the show Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. But of course, if you're watching us live right now, we also have the audio podcast for your downloading convenience anytime on any of your mobile devices. All right, so what have we got for the show today? Yeah, murder in St. Louis, an unbelievable, heinous crime. A man was recorded on camera loading a firearm, a handgun, on the streets of St. Louis, my home state of Missouri, and just executing a man in broad daylight. Why? Why? Such savagery. Absolutely unnecessary. We'll discuss that. I will play for you part of the clip today. I can't play for you the moment that it occurred because, well, you know why. But we are going to talk about that, and we'll discuss that at 7:22 a.m. today. It was an absolutely brutal crime. A man executed in broad daylight as onlookers filmed. Better to have a gun than a camera these days, I would say. We'll talk about that. Joe Biden. Well, Democrats are saying they want Joe Biden out, but here's why that's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen, despite how much you and I might like to see it. And here's the thing. The smartest Republicans and the smartest libertarians know that you don't want Joe Biden to not be the nominee. You want Joe Biden because you know who you're gonna get. If you don't, you're gonna get that cackling moron, Kamala Harris. I'll get you, my pretties. No, you don't want that. That's the last person that you want sitting across from Vladimir Putin. If you want Vladimir Putin to invade the rest of Europe, then, perhaps put Kamala Harris up there at the top. You can text the show today at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. We'll talk about Democrats pushing to get rid of Joe Biden, and I'll explain to you why I think that won't happen. Not only that, of why you won't want it to happen. Senator Rand Paul is demanding the declassification of documents supporting the COVID-19 origin of the lab leak origin of COVID-19. We'll talk about that, as well as I've got a whole list of clips, lovely clips of leftists on MSNBC to CNN talking about how the racist origins of the lab leak theory show how Republicans are terrible people and that people who believe in the lab leak origin are conspiracy theorists. Oh, yes. I've got it all, and we're going to play it for you, and it's going to be great. It's going to be clip after clip after clip of moronic left-wing nonsense. It's going to be totally awesome. You don't want to miss that. Also, I've got a clip of Jon Stewart getting the last laugh. Remember when he went on Stephen Colbert like a year ago and was talking about the Wuhan Institute of Virology, and then the left was bashing him and attacking him and saying, he's propagating these racist conspiracy theories? Well, the funny man got the last laugh after all. And he went on a podcast the other day to talk about that. So I've got the clip, and we'll talk about that, and it'll be fun. Robbie Thurman over on the live stream says, I'm going to build a gun into a cell phone. It's called the iPew. Very funny, Robbie. It's actually a really great joke, honestly. I might steal that. Put that in a meme. What do you say? Honestly, a gun cell phone, I don't know. The only problem is that, like, how would you hold the cell phone up to your head? Like this? Is this how you would hold the gun? Like, hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me now? I know I shouldn't make jokes like that this early in the morning because I'll probably get taken down. But anyways, moving on. Drug-resistant superbug, speaking of bugs, spreading across the United States. Did you get a tummy ache recently? Did you remember a couple weeks ago when I was out for a day because I was like... I know some people don't like to hear that noise because it actually makes them sick. But there's apparently some kind of drug-resistant superbug going around the country. A lot of people have had it, and more people are getting sick, having the diarrheas, the poopsies. They've named it. They know what it is. I'll tell you what it is a little bit later on the program. We'll talk about that. South Park strikes again. Oh my God, over the top, hilarious. Trans activists and bathroom watch. We are going to play the clip for you of the latest South Park episode where Cartman transitions to another gender simply by placing a bow in his hair. That's all you got to do these days. It must be nice because I heard that was it Los Angeles or some town in California, some city in California, of course it's California, is going to offer payments, direct cash payments. They're going to do a universal basic income for like trans people in California. And it's all you have to do is just identify as such, which, you know what, if that's all it takes to get some of my tax dollars back, I'll identify as a purple wallaby if that's what you want. Judge Napolitano, speaking of purple wallabies, Judge Napolitano will be joining us at 8 o'clock this morning. Just kidding, Judge. Will be joining us this morning at 8 o'clock. Ron DeSantis of Florida officially takes over, the state of Florida takes over the Reedy Creek district that was previously owned by Disney, and will now have state management of public services in the territory. He also appointed a woman who is a co-founder of a group called Moms for Liberty to manage the district. We'll talk to Judge Napolitano with his thoughts about that. It's quite a contentious issue amongst libertarians and conservatives. There's a lot of tribal loyalty that goes into it, right? Anything that a Republican does is always good. But there is a libertarian argument for allowing Disney to manage their land because, frankly, we want corporations to control everything and for there to be no government. Just kidding. Just kidding, but also kind of not. Also kind of not kidding a little bit of that. But yeah, I like the corporations better than the government. I know you're like, oh, it's the corporations. They're the same thing, but they're not. Sony has never, ever once forced me to buy their TV. But Obama did force me to buy health insurance, didn't he? Yes, exactly. Oh, looks like our buddy Unwokable is already here this morning. We're glad to see him. We'll see him live and in person this morning at 8:30. We'll talk to him about the new Nuremberg, the question of the lab leak theory. Should we put people who into camps for their COVID crimes? We'll talk about that with our buddy Unwokable at 8:30 this morning. Anti-school choices entered the chat, says Rare Camellia. I have no idea what you're talking about, but you can let us know because you're over there in the chat. So let us know. Send us a text if you like as well at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. We'd love to hear from you on that one. So I guess that's it then. So Mark from Unwokable will be here at 8:30. Oh, also, this is going to be a really good little tech tip that I've got for you today. Apparently, Apple thinks that charging your iPhone slower is going to save the planet. So this is a new feature built into your iPhone. If you're an iPhone user and you've been wondering, is my iPhone charging slower? It's not you. It actually is charging slower, and it's because of a feature that was installed on your phone without your knowledge, probably. You just clicked accept to those giant terms and conditions. So I'm going to teach you how to turn off the clean energy charging feature in your newest iOS update so that you can charge your phone faster and give the middle finger to, the ghost of Steve Jobs. Who's the guy that runs Apple? Remember when they called him Steve Apple? Was it that Donald Trump? Who was the guy who's the CEO of Apple? I forget. Oh, Tim Cook. Oh yeah, remember when Donald Trump called him Tim Apple? And that was so funny. He's like, I don't have time to learn your name, so you're just Tim Apple. Which is funny because honestly, that's how I remember people's names sometimes too. Like I have people's names in my phone, and it's like their last name is whatever is related to how I know them, right? It'll be like, I don't know their last name, so it'll be like him, McDonald's, or like, Mike Dairy Queen or whatever, right? I don't know why it's just fast food. I got food on my mind, I guess. But we're going to talk about that this morning, and I'll explain to you how to charge your iPhone faster by turning off something in the latest update. All right, where are we? What are we looking at? What are we talking about at the top of the show today? We're not going to talk about the St. Louis murder just yet. We're going to let people file in, and we'll talk about that at 7:20 this morning. Oh yeah, the Democrats wanting Biden out. Okay, so I've got an awesome clip for you. This is Joe Biden talking about a nurse named Pearl Nelson just being all weird and creepy, like Joe Biden is, always being weird and creepy. Let's take a listen to this.
Named Pearl Nelson, military. She'd come in and do things that I don't think you learn in medical school, nursing school. She'd whisper in my ear. I couldn't understand her, but she'd whisper, she'd lean down. She'd actually breathe on me to make sure that there was a connection, a human connection. She even went home and brought back her pillow named Pearl Nelson.
Hey, what in the hell? Oh my God. Oh my God. What in the hell is that? I had a nurse named Pearl Nelson. She'd come in and do things I don't think you learn in nursing school. She'd whisper in my ear things I couldn't understand, but she'd whisper and lean down and actually breathe on me to make sure there was a human connection. I mean, oh my God. Oh God. One more time, Joe Biden. Let's hear that one more
Named
time.
Pearl Nelson, military. She'd come in and do things that I don't think you learn in medical school, nursing school. She'd whisper in my ear. I couldn't understand her. She'd whisper, she'd lean down. She'd actually breathe on me to make sure that there was a connection, a human connection. She even went home and brought back her pillow named Pearl.
Good God. Oh my God. This is why, isn't this why you start your day with the Wake Up America show? Because you know you're going to get the best, the hottest, the latest, the funniest clips to get your day started right. Have yourself a cup of coffee, sit back, relax, enjoy. Austin Peterson has got things under control. The Wake Up America show is going to give you the best, the hottest news, all the fun stuff that you want to see. Now, let's talk about Democrats, supposedly the whisper campaign to get Joe Biden out so that he's not the candidate in 2024. And let me tell you why that's a stupid idea, not only for Democrats, but for Republicans as well. Because I heard this Representative Dean Phillips character from Minnesota. He said this week that like literally hundreds of Democrat U.S. lawmakers are apprehensive about Joe Biden being the party's nominee, right? And then they're pulling out all these polls. They found Democrat voters do not want the party's nominee, Biden to be the party's nominee again. Don't believe the polls. The polls are not commissioned to tell you what people think. The polls are commissioned to tell people how to think, right? Now, Biden, of course, is powerful, and he's probably got some powerful enemies on the left, just as he does on the right. But the problem is, it, it, they think that they want competition, but Democrats don't really want competition. It's like when Bernie Sanders complains about there being too many types of deodorant in the United States, right? Too many flavors of bomb pops here, too many popsicles here in the United States. We only need one car company. We only need one. Like, Democrats don't really like competition. They don't want competition. And let me tell you why specifically I believe that Joe Biden is going to be the nominee in 2024. One, because it's always the incumbent typically, right? But two, because the power of patronage. You have to understand how this thing works, right? So when you're the president of the United States, you can use that power in order to provide patronage. What's patronage for those who forgot sixth or seventh grade civics when Andrew Jackson came in and named a whole bunch of people that were his friends to high offices and it became a big scandal. Patronage is when you can say, oh, well, these people over here don't want me to be the nominee. So I'm going to go to that group of people. I'm going to find who their leaders are, and I'm going to appoint them to high offices in my administration because guess what? I'm the president of the United States, bitch. I could do whatever I want. I could name whoever I want to any power that I want. So if you're wondering if Joe Biden is going to be the president, not the president of the United States, but hopefully he's not, right? Hopefully he loses, but that's not looking too good either, to be quite honest. Republicans look like they're ready to lose another election, and I got plenty of, evidence to show you why that's going to be. But the fact is that Joe Biden can nominate people to high offices. That no anti-incumbent who's running, Elizabeth Warren, Pete Buttigieg, who's running on the Democrat side, of who's already named as a Democratic challenger to Joe Biden. I don't know. I know a couple of Republicans that are running, Nikki Haley and this Vivek Rava, never going to be the president anymore. Anyway, guy, not gonna work here no more. Office Space joke. Okay, so but on the Democratic side, none of the people who would try and challenge him in a primary can promise anything. They can't make the kinds of promises that Joe Biden can. Anybody on the Democratic side that says they're going to challenge him, that has any support base, all Joe Biden has to do is go to their support base and say, you want to be head of Durkistan's, foreign office? Boom, there you go. You got a job in the administration. Done. There goes all their support. Because that's how things work in Washington, D.C. Sorry to disappoint, but that just be how it be. That's politics, baby. All right. So, man, have I got a lot of content for you today. I got so much stuff, I don't know if I'm able to get it through all of it. I got clips on clips on clips and clips. But I do got to go to a commercial break. And the reason why is because, one, I'm a greedy capitalist pig. And the reason, two, is because I got to go get those clips ready and then get it all set up for you so that you can see, well, part of that terrible crime in St. Louis, Missouri. We'll talk about that when we get back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupamericashow.com.
I like shooting things, but whenever I can't shoot something, I like to cut things. My life isn't all about shooting and stabbing and cutting, though. Sometimes I have to do actual work, but when I work, I still like to have fun. And there's nothing less fun than trying to cut with a crappy knife. Thankfully, from the ancient sect of Christian knights, who also loved cutting and stabbing, comes a new implement that has received my personal blessing, the Templar knife. Like the ancient sword of Excalibur, you don't choose a Templar knife, it chooses you. You just decide what kind you want on the website first, however, and then order it online, and then it chooses you. The Templar knife comes in a variety of shapes. As a man of culture and taste, I have decided I will never use a terrible knife again. And thanks to the inspiration provided by this excellent product, I have decided to launch a new crusade against anyone using less than superior knives. Join me, brothers and sisters, by visiting uppercuttactical.com/pages/Templar-knives. That's a lot of slashes. For that, you'll need a Templar knife. For 10% off, use code AP for Liberty and join me in a quest for glory, for liberty, for Christendom, for the Templar knife. Get yours today.
Fire.
Hello, this is Barack Obama, and let me tell you why Austin Petersen stinks, and you should never pay attention to anything that he has to say. First of all, he's a libertarian, and we all know libertarians are idiots. They don't realize how important government is to everything that we do. I recently became aware that Austin has opened up a libertarian shop at apeforlibertyshop.com. Now, I'm asking you as a personal favor to me that you never ever visit apeforlibertyshop.com. With all of the great Liberty merchandise there, the last thing that we need to do is to get people spreading this message around the country, because then they might start thinking that they don't need government. And that's the last thing that good Democrats like us want. So if you love democracy, like me, and hate freedom, then don't visit AP for Liberty Shop. Like I said, whatever you do, do not visit aporlibertyshop.com. I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level. But law alone cannot make men see right.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Nice to have you here. I just saw that we sold one of our Ew Government shirts this morning. Nice. We love to see it. We've got a couple of different variations of that. Not only do we have like the awesome Ew Government t-shirt, and by the way, that's unisex. I know the gents out there are seeing that lovely lady and saying, wow, that looks good on her. But it could look good on you, because we've got it for men and women. That Ew Taxes handbag, though, maybe not so much for the gentleman, but it's up to you. It's not just a pink carry strap, but also we've got the Ew Taxes shirt as well, but we've got them in tank. We've also got tank tops, so make sure that you check those out. We'd love to have your patronage as well. Your free market patronage, not, the type of patronage that comes with strings attached. All right, so murder on the streets of St. Louis. We're going to talk about that here in just a moment. Good morning, Anthony Jones. Thanks for joining us. Mad Mom Anon as well. Chris Morrill, my lovely wife Stephanie, is here with us. Elizabeth Fanning Press is having a nice cocktail this morning, nice and bright and early. And our friend Texas 556, as well as Brandon Christensen. I love seeing all the new names and faces over there this morning. I'm looking forward to meeting some of you. I'd love for you to introduce yourself over there in the chat. If you'd like to text the show and have your chat read on air, you can do that. 573-319-1586 is the text line. Put that in your phone. I know Mad Mom Anon yesterday was saying, oh, I saved the phone number in my phone. What are you doing? Come on. 573-319-1586 is the phone number. All right, graphic video footage shows the moment a homeless Missouri man was fatally shot by a suspect whom he had apparently fought with moments earlier. This incident unfolded just the other day in St. Louis. Authorities had responded to this shooting and found the unidentified victim dead at the scene. The video footage that was taken by a witness shows the victim sitting on the curb with the suspect standing behind him, apparently struggling to load his firearm. And then after nearly 30 seconds, the suspect points the gun at point-blank range at the victim's head and kills him. I'm going to play this clip for you, but I'm going to stop it right before the moment of truth because, well, we know how social media acts with things like this. But take a look at this.
It sounds like I said that was a gunshot.
Apologies for the language. Look at this. So he's loading this gun, taking his sweet time, loading this gun. Poor homeless guy just sitting
there. There he goes.
Got people, look at that. Taking his sweet time.
No, he just put a magazine in it. He's still trying to load it.
Okay, so let's pause before the moment of truth there. We don't want to get demonetized, do we? No, we do not. It took him quite a long time for him to get that gun into action and ready to go. A lot could have been done in that time. There are very few heroes in this world, as we understand. Most people just stand by and record. This is St. Louis we're talking about, but in the state of Missouri, we are allowed to conceal and open carry. I don't understand why, if anybody knew that this was happening in the amount of time that it took, that someone couldn't have done something. This is America after all. We need not stand for such lawlessness in our streets, and this crime happening in our once beautiful city of St. Louis, once the jewel of this state, now something that people like myself would rather toss off to the state of Illinois. This is the years and years of Democratic rule that is underneath attorneys like Kim Gardner and others who have allowed this kind of lawless to continue with the non-enforcement of actual crimes. This is what some people call tyrannical anarchy, meaning the selective enforcement of certain laws that benefit those in power with the non-enforcement of actual laws that are being aimed at the people. So, what's to be done when things like this occur? When the headlines continue to pour in and will continue to move on after things like this happen, I demand that Kim Gardner resign. The prosecuting attorney of St. Louis has blood on her hands. The governor of this state and the attorney general of this state have demanded the resignation of the prosecuting attorney of St. Louis, who has allowed this lawlessness to continue with her dereliction of duty. She is, by secondary or perhaps tertiary means, responsible for the continued lawlessness that has led to these kinds of heinous crimes in our once beautiful city of St. Louis. What is to be done? The first thing that needs to be done is that Kim Gardner must resign. It should have been done a long time ago, back during the Eric Greitens scandal with it, which that she was heavily involved in. But if anything, it needs to happen now, not just for political purposes, but because the question remains is how long will we allow this to continue? Right? This is happening in my state. This is my home state. I was born, raised, educated here, and I live here, and I'm going to raise a family here. And I want to know that when I have kids here very soon, that I can take them to go see the theater in St. Louis. And knowing that I'm definitely going to be, stay strapped or get clapped, right? Maybe it's not something that I necessarily have to worry about. But here the fact is that the reality is that no matter how much of a Superman you think you are, the 15 years of karate lessons that I've had, the lifetime of training with firearms and being, quick drawing and learning how to defend myself. The plain fact of the matter is that some brutish thug like this can just come up behind you, put a gun to your head, and it's lights out. And it didn't matter all the training that you had. We conservatives and libertarians like to think, oh, well, we'll defend ourselves, we'll do these kinds of things. You never know what's going to happen in this kind of a situation. I mean, it could have been you. It could have been me. This could have been any of us, right? The fact that this happened to a homeless man should not be the reason why we allow this to be swept under the rug. This crime should be prosecuted. This man should be brought to justice. And quite frankly, Kim Gardner ought to be prosecuted right alongside him if she refuses to step down. I hope that the Attorney General of Missouri and that the governor of the state of Missouri continue their campaign to remove Kim Gardner because I place a lot of the blame for these kinds of crimes at her doorstep. She has refused to prosecute these kinds of crimes. I had Attorney General candidate Will Scharf on my show. What was it? Just on yesterday or the day before? On Monday, talking about this. He says you're more likely that you've got a 1 in 4 chance of getting prosecuted if you commit murder in the state of Missouri. A 1 in 4 chance of getting prosecuted if you commit murder here in the state of Missouri. That's what Will Scharf said. Honestly, I think he's a great candidate for attorney general. And I definitely support him. But the fact of the matter is that we're not going to get change unless we change St. Louis, and the culture of St. Louis has got to change. But that's decades of Democrat rule. I just got back from Boston. Excuse me, not Boston, but Baltimore, and I'll tell you that city looks like it's post Berlin, post-war Berlin. It looks like it was bombed out. It looked like Dresden after the firebombing. I mean, Hiroshima and Nagasaki after the bombs were in better shape than Baltimore was, and probably a lot more safe, to be honest. These are American cities. This is the greatest country in the world. We're spending billions of dollars to fight a war in Ukraine that has nothing to do with us, and yet we cannot afford to somehow rebuild our cities here at home. We take all of these tax dollars and all of this energy in policing the world and nation building overseas, and we can't even build our own nation here. Why? Why? Do you share this sentiment? Am I alone in this? Oh, okay. Thank God. The studio audience coming in on my side. All right. Righteous outrage. Righteous outrage. Righteous outrage. All right. Speaking of righteous outrage, how about a new Nuremberg for the people who were wrong during the COVID-19 pandemic? Let's take a look at some of the greatest hits in left-wing bias for people who doubted the lab leak theories, of which there is a person, at least one person I know on this podcast, who, when I was conspiracy theorizing back when my old KWOS radio days about the lab leak theory, they were, Austin's a conspiracy theorist on this one. You know who you are. We're still friends, though. We're still friends. All right. Continue.
Traditionally driven by science, not presidential politics. And the scientists aren't the only ones rankled today by Trump's effort at reputational repair. The New York Times also advances recent reporting on U.S. intelligence agencies, which we learned this week provided intel in the president's PDB as early as January about the lethal spread of COVID. Those same agencies now have been tapped with investigating one of Trump world's most favorite conspiracy theories. New York Times reports this, quote, senior Trump administration officials have pushed American spy agencies to hunt for evidence to support an unsubstantiated theory that a government lab in Wuhan, China was the origin of the coronavirus outbreak. That's according to current and former American officials. The effort comes as President Trump escalates a campaign to blame China for the pandemic. Some intel analysts are concerned that the pressure...
Trump was right. Trump, got to give it up to our boy Trump. You may love him, you may hate him, but he was right. And look how MSNBC was treating him. Oh, he's a implying he's a racist if he uses spy agencies to determine if it was a lab leak theory, right?
From the administration officials.
MSNBC, when Trump was still the president, when Trump was trying to find out if the origin of that COVID-19 was from the lab leak, and he was right.
Will distort assessments about the virus. And
that's the New York. Just quoting the New York Times there. Oh, excuse me. I hear the New York Times and I'm just like, what? Oh my God, why did I do that?
They could be used as a political weapon in an intensifying battle with China over a disease that has infected more than 3 million people across the globe. The stories of Trump reaching deep into the government agencies charged with science.
Yeah, charged with science. Here we go. CNN's Drew Griffin. Zero proof behind the conspiracy theory.
How it may have spread from bats to humans continues to be a subject of investigation.
Because we don't know where the novel coronavirus came.
And I love it when you hear this kind of a guy reading this tone of voice. He's doing it to sound as if he's not opinionated here. Right? And it's just kind of like with Associated Press and USA Today, which all my homies hate USA Today. I hate USA Today with a passion. But when they read these kinds of news reports and this tone of voice, it's because they want you to take them seriously and that this is an actual news report and not an opinion. I'm just reading the news. This is the actual reporting. This is journalism and it's totally unbiased. Whenever you hear a reporter reading a report like this, it's because they want you to think that what they're saying is not their opinion. It's just a report. News at 11.
From yet, the conspiracy theories fill the void.
I'm telling you, the Chi-Coms are trying to weaponize this thing.
Conservative talk show host Rush Limbaugh with zero proof, suggesting a Chinese bioweapon lab is to blame.
Conservative Rush Limbaugh with zero proof says conservative bioweapon to blame.
A Chinese official tweeting, it might be U.S. Army who brought the epidemic to Wuhan.
Look at this. So the CNN reporter, chastises the American Rush Limbaugh and says, oh, zero proof, and then goes to a Chinese government official and reports what the Chinese government official says as factual, that it was the American U.S. Army that brought it to there. Are you effing kidding me? Alex Jones scream. All right, sorry. Continue. I need to calm down.
But to find the real source of this pandemic, it's best to leave it to science. CNN has spoken to a half-dozen virus hunters who right now say anyone who claims they know the exact...
to a virus hunter. CNN has spoken to half a dozen virus hunters. Really, virus hunters? Like, where did you get the degree from virus hunting? Did you get it at the Wuhan Institute of Virology? Let's continue.
Source of the novel coronavirus is guessing. Did it come from bats? Most likely. Chinese researchers have already determined the coronavirus is 96% identical at the whole genome level to a bat coronavirus.
Look look at this. They're reporting what these Chinese officials are saying. It's fact. Now, what the conservative broadcaster is saying, I mean, he's crazy. He's got zero proof. These people are traitors. These people are treasonous. These people, they hate America. They want us to fail. They love communist China. They want us to be exactly like these Asian countries that have no rights, no freedoms, no Bill of Rights, nothing. They hate us. They hate us, and they want us dead.
Virus. 27 public health scientists from across the U.S. and the world wrote this letter in the journal Lancet, condemning conspiracy theories and citing scientific evidence, including the U.S. Centers for Disease Control, that supports the theory that overwhelmingly conclude that this coronavirus originated in wildlife, as have so many other emerging pathogens.
Oh my God, owned. We read this story in this tone of voice, so you know that it's actually not our opinion. It's completely factually based. We took this information from the Chinese government, and it has been shown to be completely unbiased. News at 11. God damn, that's owned. Speaking of owned, look at this tubby piece of crap. Jimmy Kimmel going after Trump on the lab leak theory. It's so delicious. Tasty, like green tea ice cream. Let's continue.
He's also pushing U.S. intelligence to find evidence for this theory that the virus was accidentally released from a lab in Wuhan. That's his new angle to feed the wingnuts, to treat this virus like it was a conspiracy of some kind.
It should have never happened. This plague should never have happened. It could have been stopped. But people chose not to stop it.
What people? Tomorrow he'll blame the Spanish flu on Antonio Banderas. Trump has also reportedly been upset with his...
What a dip. God damn. Boo, Jimmy Kimmel. Boo. Remember when comedians were funny? God, what a piece of trash he has become. And here's the lovely MSNBC's Joyanne Reid talking about the COVID lab theory. Let's have a listen to what she has to say, shall we?
In a lab in Wuhan, China. And yet this week, Donald Trump is still pushing the debunked bunkum, despite his own intelligence community's findings that is simply not true. On Thursday, the intelligence community released a rare statement saying they agree with the scientific consensus that the virus was not man-made.
We can always trust it's the intelligence community issued a rare statement. So, listen, I don't know about you, but me and my homies, we always trust the intelligence community.
But it's not like Trump has a history of going against the words of his own intelligence community or anything.
Debunked. And why would he not? Why would he go against the intelligence community? It's only the deep state that wants to try and extricate him, that was doing everything they could, working against him while he was in office, trying to do the job of the people. And listen, I got to say, Trump, you're my boy on this one. Lab leak theory, you was right. You was right. And our homies over at MSNBC were wrong. They were so wrong. And what about Joe Scarborough? Let's look over at another MSNBC staple, Mr. Joe Scarborough, former Republican congressman, need I remind you. Let's take a listen to what he had to say back in the heady days of 2020.
Off the top of his head comes conspiracy theories on the internet. And even yesterday, you saw some of his supporters, some people on the internet starting to suggest that it was like a bioweapon, which of course nobody said that. The president never even said that. Just said it may have come out of a lab by mistake. But again, he can't just sit back and let the doctors and the scientists do their jobs. He's got to chime in on health cures that end up being bad for Americans.
Jesus, Joe. Terrible. Let's continue on.
Guy that didn't Tom go to Harvard?
So here's Joe Scarborough talking about Senator Tom Cotton, when Tom Cotton was starting to talk about the thing that he thought it was coming from a lab.
I think so. I think Tom's a Harvard guy, very well educated. Tom Cotton a couple of days ago spouting a conspiracy theory that the Chinese made this virus up. You have the lab in Wuhan. In a lab, you have Rush Limbaugh every day, Presidential Medal, Freedom of Honor. It's hard to say this is the most reckless thing he's ever done, but saying that basically this was just a conspiracy and this was just...
Media is the enemy of the people. These journalists are the enemy of the people. Michael Malice is right. Good God, we love seeing our friends over here this morning. Make sure that you send us a text if you like to get your opinion read on air. That's 573-319 1586. That's 573-319-1586 if you'd like to have your text read on air. You can also send us a super chat. If you're one of the 43 beautiful people watching us over on YouTube this morning, good morning. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining us here. We're glad to have you here. Make sure you keep the chat civil. We like to try and be nice to one another in the morning, start off our day all right. It's fine to have disagreements, but please be kind to one another. We like to propagate a nice, healthy community of friends and fans here. And some of us are even family. If you're watching us over on YouTube and you like the positive vibes, you like the show, you like what you're hearing, make sure you click like on that YouTube video so that we can get out in other people's feeds this morning and they can join us as well. We'd like to build one big, giant, happy freedom family so that the Wake Up America show can continue to spread the message of economic freedom and personal liberty. I'm going to get back to that whole lab leak thing in just a moment, but I did want to talk to you really briefly about my friends over at Lear Capital, because yesterday BX Bullet was on the show, and before we started talking, she's like saying, Austin, you know what? I'm actually kind of concerned about my financial future here with the state of the economy. She's like, can you give me the info about your buddies over at Lear Capital? And I was so glad to be able to introduce her to them, because gold, silver have always made really good investments. And here's the thing. I know a lot of people who watch my show, they're not millionaires and billionaires. And you know what? Neither am I. But you don't have to be rich to squirrel away a little bit of gold and silver and hold it, right? Because here's the thing. You might say to yourself, okay, well, honestly, maybe I would like to have a few pieces of gold and silver and hide it in my backyard. Okay, that's a good idea. But if you want to play it a little bit more safe and you want to own physical gold and silver, but you don't necessarily want it today, well, you can actually take a portion of your retirement and put it into physical metals. And you're like, oh, what do you mean? Well, can I have the physical metals in my 401k or my Roth IRA? Yeah, absolutely. And then if you want at any time to take possession of it, just like if you sold stocks from your IRA and you wanted to cash out for whatever reason, you get the tax penalty, obviously. But you could absolutely cash out and you could get your gold and silver from your retirement account at any time that you like. I think that's a really good way to invest in gold and silver. And it's like, you could honestly not have to actually spend any extra money at all. You could just, cash out some of your stocks into the account, purchase some gold, part of that in gold and silver, and then you don't have the tax liability of having to pay the taxes because you actually got the money out of the account. Here's how you do it. Call them today at 1-800-885-2175. And they'll give you a free information kit. So it's not like if you call them, there's any obligation to buy or anything like that. If you call them at 1-800-885-2175, then they will send you a free information packet. If you're phone shy, and I know many of you are, you can also visit the website. It's a custom website, learaustin.com. That's LEARAUSTIN.com. Visit LEARAUSTIN.com to find out more about how to invest in gold and silver today. How was that? That wasn't too bad, right? Learn how to do those live reads, baby. I'm learning how to do them ads. Okay, let's continue on and cut the disco music. All right, let's continue on. Lab leak theory debunked.
At least the 24th. Ken, the other thing I wanted to ask you about is this question about the Wuhan lab. We know that it's been debunked that this virus was man-made or modified or anything like that. But as you've reported, the Intelligence Committee has been sort of paying attention to the question of whether it was an accident at a Chinese lab. And
I love seeing these people be so wrong. Here's Fareed Zakaria. He's like, their head doctor over there at CNN, talking smack about Tom
Cotton, one of Donald Trump's staunchest allies in the Senate, suggested that the virus might have originated in a high-security biochemical lab in China. In the 1980s, I remember when the far left trafficked in rumors about HIV having been invented in CIA labs. The far right has now found its own virus conspiracy theory. President Trump, for his part, fuels the fears by emphasizing how the disease came from China and how he heroically saved American lives by closing the border in late January to people coming from China. In fact, public health officials stress the importance of comprehensive public health systems that can safely and speedily test lots of people, isolate and provide care to those infected, and
Fareed Zakaria, what a dumbass. Let's continue.
And then there's this.
Oh, here comes Drew Griffin. So he's the one who reads the news in this tone of voice. So you think that he's being objective. Let's continue.
And then there's this theory, widely debunked. This paper from two Chinese.
Uh-oh. Internet slow down.
that says it is plausible that the virus leaked accidentally from one of 2 labs near the Wuhan seafood market. After an uproar and heated denials by the Chinese government, one of the authors told the Wall Street Journal the paper had been withdrawn because it was not supported by direct proofs. Experienced virus hunters Dashik and Cunningham say the theory is bunk.
People don't keep bats in captivity. Complete baloney.
We don't need to invoke conspiracy theories.
Look
it's
at
just
these
basic
soy boy beta cucks. God. Look, we don't need to invent conspiracy theories.
biology.
Tensions between the U.S. and China over the origins of the virus and accusations of misinformation from both sides are slowing the work of the virus.
God, this stuff is so good. I could go on and on and on. But let's go over to our buddy. Remember Jon Stewart when he did this interview on Colbert? Watch this.
I think we owe a great debt of gratitude to science. Science has, in many ways, helped ease the suffering of this pandemic, which was more than likely caused by science.
Now, see, Stephen Colbert isn't having that. He isn't having that because that went against the mainstream leftist view at the time, which was that was a conspiracy theory created by science. No, it was because of some other thing, which Jon Stewart will say funnier than I do. Continue.
And that's kind of
all of it.
No. Now, listen.
It's coffee. I wouldn't do that to you. I wouldn't do that to you. What do you mean by that? Do you mean like perhaps there's a chance that this was created in a lab? There's an investigation.
A chance?
Well,
oh
my God! If there's evidence, I'd love to hear it.
There's a novel respiratory coronavirus overtaking Wuhan, China. What do we do? Oh, you know who we could ask? The Wuhan novel respiratory coronavirus lab. The disease is the same name as the lab. That's just a little too weird, don't you think? And then they ask those scientists, they're like, how did this... So wait a minute, you work at the Wuhan respiratory coronavirus lab. How did this happen? And they're like, a pangolin kissed a turtle. And you're like, no, the name of your lab, if you look at the name, let me see your business card. Show me your business card. Oh, I work at the coronavirus lab in Wuhan. Oh, because there's a...
He got so much crap for that, too. He got so much crap for coming out there and saying that. I got to say, Jon Stewart, bravo, congratulations for being right. Now, I guess that makes Jon Stewart a right-wing crazy terrorist, Nazi, National Socialist, whatever. I don't know what it is, but I mean, right-wing, bigoted, misogynist, homophobic, sexist, racist, everything you will. But congratulations, John. You actually were right about that one. But and Jon Stewart's not right-wing, right? He is left-wing. So it was wild to me to see the left just absolutely dogpiling on Jon Stewart for going out and saying essentially what everybody knew at the time, except for the left, right? We knew that it was a lab leak before, we knew that it was a lab leak before the Department of Energy confirmed it. I had, for some reason, the New York Post story isn't popping up. Jon Stewart lab leak. Let's pull that up. Newest. Okay, here we go. So, he appeared on a podcast, Jon Stewart did, to kind of like basically do a victory lap. And for some reason, it's not giving me there it is. Great. I've got the clip of the video of Jon Stewart going out there and doing his victory lap. Let me pull that up for you. Apologies for every once in a while we get a little technical issue there, but I can now bring it back over to our Twitter scene. Take a listen. Here's Jon Stewart responding.
The Department of Energy came out with a report saying that they said low confidence, but that the COVID-19 was a result of a lab leak.
Are you trying to get me canceled again?
I know. I've gotten so many texts being like, is John gloating?
Do you feel vindicated?
No, there is no... First of all... I wasn't waiting for the Department of Energy to weigh in on it. That's one of those.
A lot of people are really confused about that. The Department of Energy coming out. Why is the Department of Energy? Well, apparently, Department of Energy does a lot of like biomolecular research and stuff, so that's why their expertise was sought. Which, I mean, another perfect example of like why is our government bureaucracy so enormous? Why is the Department of Energy involved in biomolecular research and stuff? I don't. Can't that be done more efficiently in the private market? Can't we create terrible viruses in private corporation labs, please, and not government ones? Just kidding.
You were refreshing the Department of Energy feed.
What is the Department of Energy?
With low confidence.
It's not about certainty or the larger problem with all of this is the inability to discuss things that are within the realm of possibility.
Thank you. That's really the point is that it's not the problem here is not necessarily just COVID-19 itself or the problem is the inability to discuss these things. We weren't able to have these conversations as soon. And the thing is that it's tribalism, right? So as soon as somebody from one side says something, the other side instantly denounces them and attempts to cancel them for expressing an opinion that maybe we don't know whether or not it's true or not. The only way that we can find out is if we allow these opinions into the light of the day. But like, there's a chilling effect that on free speech that is, and honestly, for a while, there was a beautiful moment before social media got in bed with government where we were able to say whatever we wanted on the internet. I don't know if you were alive at that time. Maybe some of you are too young to remember those days. But when I was a kid growing up and I had a computer in my room and we had modems and did, bulletin boards, you could literally say anything. I remember when I was in college at Missouri State University, back then it was SMSU in Springfield. And you had lightning fast internet in your room, and you could look at absolutely anything. Now, some people would look at the most degenerate things ever, right? But that's free speech, in my opinion. Again, I'll quote Ron Paul. We don't have free speech to talk about the weather. We have free speech to talk about very dangerous things. And that's why, even though some people said, Austin, you shouldn't go to Maryland and debate that Groyper chick lady. She's a homophobe. She's a bigot. She's a Nazi. She's a racist, blah, blah, blah. Okay, maybe all of those things are true, but the only way we're going to be able to find that out is if we go out there and we have a debate and we talk about these ideas publicly, right? If you try and shun people and you try and push them, you try and marginalize their views, all you're going to do is make it more attractive to marginal people. Marginal people are always going to be attracted to marginal views. So the response is not to marginalize people. The response is to marginalize the views by having them out in the light of day. The fewer marginal views there are because they've been so discredited and debunked out in the public day, and everybody can go out there and analyze these ideas, the better, right? But the left doesn't want that. They want to shun. They want to silence. They want to cancel. And the right wants to do it too. They do that quite frequently as well. But it's just that the right mostly doesn't own the mainstream media. Unfortunately, the right is so far behind the left when it comes to technology, media ownership, digital media games, and things like that. We're just playing catch up with what the progressives have put in place always 20, 30 years ago. And this was my primary complaint when I was talking to that kid yesterday from the Federalist about conservatism existing only as a critique of what leftist progressives have created in terms of art and culture and science and technology, right? Do you remember when I asked that kid yesterday? I'm like, you're a writer at the Federalist. Are you using AI? And he's like, no, but these technologies are new. AI at this point now, at the speed of technology moves, artificial intelligence is already old in terms of digital technology. There's already competition in the AI marketplace. The AI technology is new to some people, but it's not old hat. Nathan is over there, behind the scenes, behind the camera right now, probably typing up something on AI for the AP for Liberty shop and getting everything set up for some product merchandise drop. And a lot of that's going to be generated through AI, right? And if we've got people out there, if we've got competitors that are actually staying ahead of the game, right? We're competing with them, right? We're going to see who's going to come out on top at the end of this year. And I'll tell you what, conservatives who are anti-technology, who are not paying attention to what the left is doing, who are not taking advantage of what's available out there to create their own art, we need to create our own parallel economy is what I'm trying to argue. We need our own merchandise shops. We need our own freedom-oriented server farms. We need websites. We need technology. We need to create our own AI because honestly, we've already lost the race for AI. Sydney or Chat GPT, as most people know her, she's left of center. She's already, the artificial intelligence has been created it was created by leftists. But this design over here that you see on my this lovely lady well, she's over my left shoulder, but she's over to my right on the screen. It's opposite for you. That ooh government tee, that was designed all by me, baby. And isn't she lovely? She's not quite as lovely as my beautiful wife, of course. But for some of you out there who are into chicks with tattoos, that ooh government shirt, it's all for you, baby. Check it out. We've got it in men's and ladies. So since I'm going to go to a commercial break and go get Judge Andrew Napolitano to get his take on the Ron DeSantis thing, why don't you head over to the apforlibertyshop.com website right now and go get yourself a t-shirt? Why don't you do that? Get that look. It's for ladies and gents. We've got a ton of awesome new merchandise. You really ought to just scroll through and add 2, 3, 4, 5 things to your cart. And here's a little secret for you. If you want to get a discount, I'll tell you this. There's a little app that operates in the shop behind the scenes. It's an upsell app. And if you go to your cart and you try and buy something, it's going to give you a coupon code to try and get you to buy more. And you should buy more. Use that coupon code. You save some money, right? You're going to buy 2 or 3 things. You'll see it when you get to the checkout part of your shop. Check it out, apforlibertyshop.com. And I'm going to go get Judge Napolitano right now on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
American conservatism is distinct, like America is distinct from the United Kingdom. American conservatism's roots comes out of the Wild West, out of pioneerism. The difference between American conservatives and European conservatives is that Americans are cowboys. We are that God, guns, gold, and girls. It's wild here. And we should stay that way. We shouldn't allow a European version of conservatism to come and infect us here. We like it wide open spaces here, deep in the heart of Texas and all that.
Hey there, it's your favorite Vice President Joe Biden. I wanted to talk to you today about the Wake Up America show, the best source for all your political news and commentary. But before I get started, let me just make sure I have all my notes in order. Okay, where was I? All right, the Wake Up America show. It's a great way to stay informed and make your voice heard. Boy, what was I saying again? Oh, right. The Wake Up America show. It's important that we all stay engaged and knowledgeable about what's going on in our country and, the thing. But hold on, where was I going with all this? Oh, yeah. The Wake Up America show. It's a fantastic resource. And if you really want to make a difference, man, you can sign up to be a monthly donor at wakeupAmericaShow.com/support. Now, where was I? Oh, that's right, the Wake Up America show. So if you want to stay woke and support a great cause, head on over to wakeupAmericaShow.com/support and sign up to be a monthly donor today. And if you're feeling generous, you can even give a donation in my name. Thanks for listening, and keep on keeping on, America. Come on, man.
George. Thank you for watching the Wake Up America show with my dad. Today, I'd like to share with you 3 reasons why you should visit Dad's online store at apforlibertyshop.com. Number 1, you can get exclusive freedom-loving merch designed by AP himself or me mum, Steffi. Liberty Laura has made some designs as well, and blimey, they are great. Number 2, most of these products are so wicked that they aren't even allowed to be advertised on Facebook or Instagram. Modern machine guns and a proper keychain. Plus, our Grover Cleveland t-shirt is so spicy apparently that leftists on Facebook specifically banned it from appearing on the website. Number 3, you're supporting liberty lovers just like you. Spend your money where you earn it, and you help me Pops build a community that supports what you believe. Bloody hell, this commercial is running too long. Gotta run. Bye now. Don't forget to visit apforlibertyshop.com. That's apforlibertyshop.com.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. It's nice to see you here. Well, if you missed us last week, you weren't the only one. Judge Napolitano is our weekly Wednesday guest. He's a bright light for freedom in the United States and one of my greatest inspirations. I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for the man who's joining us live right now. Good morning, Judge. Thank you for joining us today.
Good morning, Austin. Thank you for that very, very generous introduction.
Glad to have you here, Judge. Let's get right into it. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who says and does a great many things that I think you and I would agree with, perhaps 80% of the time, and our old friend Ronald Reagan said 80% friend is not 20% enemy. But on this issue of the 20% of things we might disagree with, Judge, is this question of the Reedy Creek property that was owned by Walt Disney World in Florida, and the question of how that should be governed. I mean, just a little inside baseball, Judge. You know how libertarians hate roads because of everyone using them to force tyrannical government on us. But isn't the idea of private corporations owning their own roads, fire departments, security, and things like that, isn't that kind of our ideal of how things should go? Was it right or was it wrong for Ron DeSantis to have the state of Florida take control of that property?
Well, I think it was wrong for the government of Florida to attempt to take control of the property. I don't know what a federal judge is going to do with this. The Constitution, of course, prohibits the states from interfering with contracts, even contracts as to which they are a party. I think it was also wrong for the state of Florida to engage in this corporatism relationship with Disney. So we'll go back to 1956 when Walt Disney found this property. It was a 27,000 square mile swamp, and the state came up with this idea, let us govern it ourselves. Don't tax us, guarantee the bonds that we sell in order to raise money, and we'll build a new city here for you. It wasn't quite the city he wanted, but it's another a Walt Disney World that's been fabulously successful. And one of the reasons it's been successful is because the government leaves it alone. Is it right for the government to do favors for some people and not for others? Well, no, it's not, because while Disney's paying lesser taxes, and it does make contributions in lieu of taxes, about which more in a minute, others are paying more taxes because when the government gets less money from one taxpayer, it doesn't spend less. It just charges the other taxpayers more. But Governor DeSantis's impetus here is the content of the speech of Disney employees who had, in his view, the temerity to attack legislation that prohibited public school teachers from discussing sexuality in settings that are inappropriate age-wise. So you can't discuss sexuality and gender transition with 5, 6, and 7-year-olds in Florida, thanks to this legislation. There shouldn't be public schools to begin with in your world and mine, but if there are, they should have nothing to do with sex education for babies. Agreed. But just because Disney's employees, and under great pressure, Disney's then president, attacked this legislation, gave it the nomenclature, don't say gay, the governor of Florida decided to attack back and undermine Disney's unilateral control of its property. Now, as a result of what he did, the state now is guaranteeing the bonds. So the state is going to have to raise taxes to pay the bondholders back $1 billion, which until yesterday, actually, this doesn't take effect until June 1st, which until June 1st was Disney's obligation to do. So he may very well have cut off his nose to spite his face.
Certainly, that is intriguing. Judge, if you're just tuning in to the Wake Up America show, I'm Austin Peterson. Nice to see a big audience over there today over on YouTube. Make sure that you click like so that we can get out in other people's feeds as well. And if you're here, make sure that you introduce yourself in the chat as well. We love to make new friends and build a big freedom family here on the Wake Up America show, of which Judge Napolitano, who's joining me now, is a big part of. Judge Ron DeSantis here cutting off his nose despite his face. So my understanding is that he is essentially raising taxes on the rest of Floridians in order to ensure that the government of Florida can manage that property. So is that correct in summation?
Well, in effect, he's insulated himself from that. He's forcing 2 Florida counties in which the Disney properties are located to raise taxes in order to perform the services that Disney used to perform, because Disney, as of June 1st, no longer is the fire department and the Department of Public Works, and to raise taxes in order to pay the bond. So if you live in those 2 Florida counties, your property taxes are going to go through the roof to pay the bills that Disney used to pay, because Ron DeSantis took Disney's unilateral control of this property away. So Disney paid far less taxes than it should have. But guess what? Threw in a few $100 million in the kitty anyway, just to make sure that the people in the surrounding counties didn't get hit with heavy tax burdens. It's a very, very unique governmental relationship. Would it be nice if we all could govern ourselves the way Disney did for 50 years? Yes. But the 14th Amendment prohibits the states from engaging in corporatism unless it engages in it with everybody. So if you're going to let Disney govern itself and not have the locals tell it, our fire department is going to tax you and we'll put out your fires and we'll take care of your streets. If you're going to let Disney do that, you have to let everybody do that. That would be far too libertarian, far too constitutional, far too free market, far too sensible for the government to permit.
We love to hear that point of view. It's
you
so
can't
true,
make
Judge.
this up.
It's so true, Judge, because the true libertarian would have stated, well, instead of us having the government take away your special deal, we would have offered this special deal to Universal Studios and to all of their theme park competitors, of which there are many down there in Florida, an expansion of freedom, not a restriction of it. But I'll tell you, Judge, and Brandon Christensen over in the chat makes a good point here, and it's something that I think we should probably segue into in just a moment. And I wonder if you would dismiss this or poo-poo this. He says that this is a win for the right in the culture war, and he sees this as a win for DeSantis because the right has been engaging very loudly and vociferously in the culture wars here in the United States. And I have to say that as someone who sort of poo-pooed the idea of the culture wars in the past, I don't do that quite so much anymore, Judge. I do think that there is a war of ideas that we need to fight in art and culture and in telling even our history. The 1619 Project, right? They're trying to rewrite our history and tear down statues. So, is it a win in terms of the culture war for the right?
Well, it's never a win for freedom when a person or a group is punished because of their free speech. Now, I condemn the law in New Jersey, which requires school teachers to talk about gender transitioning to 6- and 7-year-olds. So that is condemnable. The law in Florida is the opposite. But the root of the problem is the idea that the government should be educating people in the first place. It should not. Now, look, that would be a monumental change in this country if the government were to stop educating people. And obviously, it couldn't happen overnight. But in a real environment based on human freedom, there wouldn't be public schools. Public schools are disasters. They have guaranteed clients, the students, guaranteed income, the taxpayers, guaranteed no competition except for rich people that can send their kids to private and parochial schools. That is a recipe for failure. If schools were all privatized, you want to go to Yale, you go to this school. You want to become an airplane mechanic or an airplane pilot, you go to that school. The schools would compete with each other. Whenever there's competition, services improve and cost goes down. But while we're stuck with this system, it is far better that teachers be prohibited from telling little Susie that she can become little Johnny if she wants when she's 6 or 7 years old. So obviously, I'm with you on that. But it is horrific that he went after Disney because its employees demonstrated against him politically. I'm about to do a story whereby at his book signing for his newest book, he excluded people from the book signing who had MAGA caps on. Now, that is against Florida law, which has a public accommodations law that prohibits discrimination on the basis of political beliefs. But this is the type of tyrant that the Republicans may be contemplating nominating, because the other tyrant, Trump, is even worse.
God, that's shocking to me, Judge. This is the first I've heard of that story, and I'll look forward to your report on that one. If you're just tuning in to the Wake Up America show, I'm Austin Peterson. I'm speaking to my good friend and light of liberty, Judge Andrew Napolitano. He's got his own podcast as well called the Judging Freedom Podcast, and it's huge, far bigger than the Wake Up America show. You're definitely going to want to check that out and watch his streams and his content, which is absolutely terrific. Some of the best anti-war commentary you can find out there, and the best economic freedom and personal liberty you can find, bar none. Judge, I wanted to talk to you about this concept of the culture war because, I was speaking to a conservative on my podcast yesterday, and I was asking him, he's a writer at the Federalist, and he's a young conservative, and he was poo-pooing, a Marvel movie that had come out talking about how it's, encouraging young people to engage in revolutionary themes, in which I was kind of like, well, what's wrong with revolution? America was founded on revolution, right? And he's like, well, we need it. Yes, but it was an ordered revolution, he says, which to me, the idea of an ordered revolution seems a bit oxymoronic. But let's say that Washington and Jefferson and Adams and everyone, that they had a nice orderly revolution, right? I don't think it was, but that's what it was. But, when I asked him if he was using artificial intelligence, he poo-pooed that as well. He's like, no, there's this new technology, right? There's this fear amongst conservative intelligentsia about anything new, or it exists. It seems as if conservatism exists only to critique the art and the music and the culture that is created by leftist progressives. And I sort of find myself in this scenario, in the situation in 2023, Judge, where the liberals dominate media and art and Hollywood and technology, artificial intelligence, and conservatives are always complaining. They're just always left behind because they never are creating anything new. I mean, it used to be back in the old days, like your ancestors created the most beautiful Italian art that we all look at in the museums these days. But it seems as if conservatives don't do that anymore. They don't create art. And there is no challenge, artistic challenge, or philosophical true challenge to leftist ideas, because conservatism exists now only to critique what the left creates. Do you notice this as well, or am I too pie in the sky here?
I could not agree with you more. I mean, conservatives, and I am not one, though I agree with conservatives on some issues like the IRS and guns and abortion. But conservatives need to be as creative as the left. And when conservatives are creative, I mean, did you see Woody Harrelson on SNL the other night? I mean, that monologue was absolutely fabulous. An actor told the truth, and the media, the left-wing media, went crazy. And the truth was, imagine a world where the pharmaceutical companies and the government got together. The pharmaceutical companies were a bunch of narco-pharmacists, and they shut down society until everybody accepted their drugs. Imagine that. It just happened. And of course, the left went berserk, and he said it in a funny way, as only he can. I looked at him and I thought, is that Rob Gronkowski with a shaved head? No, it was Woody Harrelson. But the left went crazy when conservatives, I don't know what he is, he may just be a comedian, I don't know if he's a conservative or if he's a libertarian, try to be creative. So your point is conservatives need to be as creative as the left. They can't just tear the left down. You are a very creative young libertarian. A lot of libertarians are creative. They're not Luddites. They're not afraid to delve into and understand the frontiers of knowledge and technology. But a lot of young people, like your friend, and I don't know who he or she is, they're 20-year-old old farts.
20-year-old old farts, Judge. We always have the best clips to cut from the Judge Napolitano interviews. I love it. 20-year-old old farts. It is, it's like, it's funny too. There was some clip from The Onion, satire site a few years ago that came out that showed clips of like pictures of young Republicans who were in their 20s who already looked like they were 50 years old. They're like balding, boring, right? But I mean, but there is a lack of flavor there amongst conservatism, right? There is a lack of seemingly of an interest to do great things and to engage in creating historical epics. I mean, when was the last time that a conservative really created a conservative piece of art that was widely accepted? Perhaps Mel Gibson's Passion of the Christ was a perfect example of conservative art that had a conservative message that was mainstream.
Or Milos Forman's Red Dawn, if you remember that movie. But these things, they're so rare. You and I could tick them off, and we wouldn't use every finger on all four of our hands because they're just so rare. Maybe conservatives take themselves too seriously. Maybe they have no ability to mock themselves. I mean, the way Woody delivered that monologue was self-deprecating, and it was hilarious as well as profoundly accurate and startling. Maybe conservatives need to take themselves with less seriousness, and they would become a little bit more creative. I don't know what the answer is. And as you know, I once was one of them. Austin, when I was an undergraduate at Princeton, I had a crew cut and wore a t-shirt that said "Bomb Hanoi." Now, what? I mean, today I condemn that attitude, but we all change. Some people takes a little bit longer to use freedom to discover the truth. That's what life is, using freedom to discover
Judge,
truth.
you're killing me today. You're killing me with this one. One theory that I've heard advanced by some people about the lack of conservative creative artistic endeavors is that the left is more than happy to bankroll and finance projects that possibly could lose money, whereas if you ask a conservative for $10 million to make a movie, right, they're going to want to make sure that there's a return on the investment, right? But leftists are more than happy to produce revolutionary reenactments, documentaries of Che Guevara, and to lionize him and to cast Benicio del Toro or whoever is the latest actor in those kinds of historic epics and make him seem like a hero. But Judge, if I were to go to some of our conservative friends and benefactors and say, I want to make a movie about Lysander Spooner competing against the U.S. Postal Service in the late 1800s before the Civil War, do you think I could go get $10 million from a conservative to make that movie, Judge? Because I got the script ready to go, but the fact is that they're going to want to see return on investment. I can't guarantee that, but what I can guarantee you is that we're gonna change hearts and minds, but that doesn't necessarily produce bottom lines.
I agree with you, sadly. If you do want to make such a movie, I have some conservatives, wealthy conservatives / libertarians in mind, but you're right. They're all going to want to know what the return on investment was. But if you make a movie lionizing Che Guevara, just go to George Soros. He'll write the check before you even finish asking for it, and you won't even have to sign a promissory note in return.
Well, I'll tell you this, Judge. I will be emailing you about that because I have the script and I'm ready to make a movie about Lysander Spooner competing with the U.S. Postal Service. It's time somebody made a movie about our heroes, Judge, and start squashing these commies crazies from making all these films. It's time for us to win some hearts and minds, I'd say. But Judge, before
one of the greatest defenders of personal liberty in the history of the country, and largely unknown because not taught about in the public schools. And the reason it's a crime to compete with the post office for first class mail is because Lysander Spooner was about to put them out of business. at least between Boston and Washington, and Congress wouldn't tolerate that.
I have this
Don't
vision.
steal. The government hates competition.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I have this vision in my mind of feds and Lysander Spooner's mail carriers getting into like an old cowboy battle with each other and fighting it out over who gets to deliver the mail. But we'll talk about that later, Judge. I'm looking forward to it. Maybe we'll see a movie executive producer, Judge Napolitano, in the new
There
film.
you go.
But Judge, before I let you go, I want people to be able to hear more about your upcoming podcast, the Judging Freedom podcast. You were talking a little bit about giving us a sneak preview. Give us a little bit more. Tell us about who you're talking to and what you're working on today.
So today is just me analyzing legal stories and constitutional issues, the argument over whether or not the president can cancel $400 billion in debt, which is effectively an appropriation from Congress. As well as some quirky little things that have happened. Tomorrow, Colonel Douglas McGregor on Ukraine, Scott Ritter on Ukraine. Friday, Jack Devine, the career CIA, to rebut as best he can Colonel McGregor and Scott Ritter. And Tony Shaffer, Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer, has joined our armada of lifelong military folks who condemn the American involvement in Ukraine. So we keep growing and people keep watching, and I'm very grateful for dear friends like you helping to promote the product.
Judge, we love having you on every Wednesday. It's just not the same when we don't get to have our weekly Wednesdays with the judge. We appreciate you very much. We look forward to having you back next week. Have a wonderful day.
God bless you, Austin.
Thank you, and you as well, Judge. Thank you very much for your time. What do you think of Judge Andrew Napolitano? Send us a text, 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-15. All right, it's time to go woke? No, it's unwoke. We're going to get unwokable with our friend from the Unwokable podcast. Mark is sitting in here. He's going to be joining us in just a few. Do we need a new Nuremberg? Is it time to put the people who were so wrong about the China coup in jail? Oh, I think so. We'll talk to him about that, as well as any other issues that are on his mind. What's on your mind? Send us a text. Again, 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. While we're on a commercial break, why don't you check out the AP for Liberty shop? Check out our government shirts. Taxes. Oh. Get one today at apforlibertyshop.com. We'll be back with more.
Donald Trump, and I approve this message. Believe me, Austin Peterson is the best. He's got the greatest Wake Up America show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests. It's just a total blast to watch, and I highly endorse and recommend the Wake Up America show. It's terrific, believe me.
Step right up, ladies and gents, to learn about the coolest president yet. He's not just any old prez, he's Calvin Coolidge, and boy oh boy is he different from the rest. He was quiet as a mouse, but don't you underestimate his power. He knew how to handle money, and he didn't waste an hour. He cut taxes, lowered debt, and balanced the budget with ease. No wonder the Roaring Twenties brought such prosperity and peace. But don't take my word for it. Grab a copy of Calvin the Coolest President and see for yourself. It's a children's book that'll make you smile and help your little ones learn about wealth. You can find it on Amazon Kindle or get your hands on a paperback at apforlibertyshop.com. So come on down and get yourself a copy of the book that's making waves all around town. You won't regret it, so get ready to be floored because Calvin Coolidge, well, folks, he really scored.
I'm a public defender.
I am a public defender.
I'm proud to be a public defender.
80% of Americans accused of a crime will get appointed a public defender.
Everybody from a speeding ticket to capital murder.
For every dollar we spend on public defenders, we spend $3 on prosecutors.
Public defenders have to do pretty much everything on their own.
Social workers, counselors.
Investigating is another piece of it.
The average public defender holds 300 cases annually.
You never feel like there's enough time.
Public defenders have health issues all the time.
A lot of people give up and say, I can't do this work anymore.
Gideon's Promise trains, mentors, and supports public defenders.
There are a lot of people who say that they would not still be public defenders, but for Gideon's Promise.
It's fueled me to continue on in this fight.
Gideon's Promise has changed the face of public defense.
People see us as troublemakers.
Good trouble only.
We don't make it easy. It should not be easy to take away someone's liberty.
Ever hear the one about the frog? Put a frog in a pot of boiling water and it'll jump right out.
Here's my resume again.
But put a frog in a pot of cool water and slowly heat it up, and that frog will boil. It's a lie. But as a metaphor for us and all that we go through as veterans,
Any real-world experience.
it's a story that rings true. We make excuses for how we feel. We push everything down. We tell ourselves the lie that it's easier to stay in that boiling water, to disconnect. And some days, maybe it is. But you've never been interested in easy. Make no mistake, reaching out is hard. Do it anyway. You're not alone. You've got this. You are not a frog.
Find resources at va.gov/reach.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Did you like that interview with Judge Napolitano? Boy, that's good stuff. He was being really funny today, wasn't he? It's always nice to have the judge on, and like I said, you know, there would be no Austin Peterson without Judge Napolitano. Way back in 2007, I was sitting in the subway in New York City reading Nation of Sheep and thinking, God, man, wouldn't it be amazing if I could work for this guy? And then I think it was like 2-3 years later, there I was in New York City working as a producer for Judge Napolitano. It was a great time in my life, and it certainly has influenced much of who I am and what I believe in. My next guest here is Mark Owsley. He's from the Unwokable podcast. He's here doing a tour with James Lindsay here in the state of Missouri, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about the China coup. Unwokable joining us now on set. Good morning. How are you, sir?
I'm all right, man. Thanks for having me on.
Glad to have you here, Mark. Thanks for reaching out to us. We're looking forward to talking to you a little bit today. You know, we've been seeing this story. Might want to turn that phone off, my brother.
Dang it.
Come on, you're a podcast expert. Come on now.
It's an alarm.
I know. Alarms break through. Your phone turned off.
It's ridiculous. Yes. And so does the CIA. So.
All right, give him a round of applause. What do you say? Thanks so much for coming on the show today. We'd love to talk to you a little bit about just how wrong the left was about the China coup. I was playing these clips earlier today from MSNBC. Trump's a conspiracy theorist, and this lab leak theory is so racist, blah, 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 blah. Remember when Jon Stewart was getting called out because he went on Colbert and was like saying all this kind of stuff?
Yes.
Do we need a new Nuremberg?
Yes.
Okay, why?
Yes, we need maybe 3 of them.
Okay, make the case.
Yes, well, when you have a lie of that magnitude, I'm a music guy, right? And so the right note at the wrong time is still the wrong note. And that's what the left tends to do to us, is they say, oh, you're crazy, you're insane, this isn't right, this isn't true. And then a year later, 2 years later, they're like, oh yeah, that was true. And because they know that if they get the lie, if they can tell the lie at the right moment, right, then they get what they want. Which is what happened, right? They got the president they wanted. They got all the shutdowns they wanted. They got all the small businesses being closed that they wanted. They destroyed lives. They destroyed lives. So I don't understand why we wouldn't try to put them in jail for that.
I mean, some of the stuff that they did was actual crimes, and the question of the gain of function research. What Elon Musk said the other day, kind of like blowing the lid on this whole eco health connection with Anthony Fauci. If anybody should be in jail for this, it's Anthony Fauci. Do you agree?
I absolutely agree. I think I'm a big fan of 5 Times August. You know them guys. They do a song called "Sad Little Man." You should go listen to that. He has been wreaking his tyranny over all of the United States for 40 or 50 years now, and nobody deserves jail more than that guy.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the way he presided over the AIDS crisis, and the gay community wasn't even happy with him at the time.
Yes, no, and what about Dr. Birx too? I mean, she knew what was going on in there, and she just had no courage at all to stand up for what was going on. So Fauci and Birx and that whole medical industrial complex that is wreaking havoc over the United States and our people and the world, really. I mean, it was common sense. It was common sense to think, just like Jon Stewart said, right? Wuhan lab, Wuhan virus, and they wouldn't allow us to use any common sense. That seems to be the left's way of operating. It's like, nope, no common sense.
If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, I'm Austin Peterson. I'm speaking to our friend from the Unwokable podcast, Mark Owsley.
Owsley? No, Owsley. Yes, yeah.
Almost want to say.
I can say Owsley. I can go with that.
Yeah. Mark Owsley from the Unwokable podcast is joining us on studio. Make sure that you give him a nice round of applause in the chat. Click like on that video here on YouTube so that we can get the message out. More people can hear from Mark. So, Mark, in terms of a Nuremberg, do I think that we're going to get something like that? Do I think Anthony Fauci is going to go to jail? No. However, I mean, an apology would be nice, right? Anthony Fauci coming out and saying he was wrong would be nice. He still can't admit it.
Well, again, I'm not giving up the ghost on jail because I don't. An apology means nothing to me. I can't do anything with an apology. What are you going to do? I think they should be able to be sued. That would be nice. If you could have a giant class action lawsuit, but of course, the big pharma, Pfizer, all of those guys, they're going to come out and they already have their protections, right? They sewed that up in the beginning. So, no, I'm still for jail. Take them straight to jail. Keep them in jail. Yeah. And I think there should at least Fauci.
Yeah, I was never on board with the whole idea that these companies should be able to do this without any kind of possible legal liability, right? I never jumped on board with the whole, the COVID shot is going to, make you more sensitive to 5G, and therefore, that's how they get the chip inside you to do the stuff. I never got on board any of that stuff. But I did think that it's very anti-libertarian for corporations to not have to pay out if they make a mistake. I mean, you could understand, what corporation is going to want liability anyway? But when you're in a pandemic kind of a situation and it's an emergency style situation, I guess what I would ask you, Mark, is, knowing that when you're in a pandemic, there's a lot of unknowns, right? You don't know how dangerous a virus necessarily is, right? So people said, hey, wear masks, right? Because we didn't even know necessarily at the time that masks didn't work, right? I mean, there was one study or something like that we kind of pointed at. Now we know that they didn't work, right? At the time, we were hoping that the vaccine would be more successful than it was, right? So it turns out that it wasn't as successful, and you might get just as good immunity if you caught the virus versus, if you get the shot, right? But I mean, some of the things, you got to kind of give them the benefit of the doubt for, right? Because, how else do you operate in a pandemic? You've got to rush things, right? There should be liability, but it makes sense why they rush things because that's what a pandemic is.
Yes,
right?
I get that. But when you have a trial, there's supposed to be lengths of trials, right? And we're going to rush. This would give the government, if we use this mentality, this logic, it's going to give the government full blanket power anytime they want to do something to say, oh, we're in a pandemic. You know what I mean? I'm not saying the pandemic was fake or anything like that. I'm just saying that never let a good crisis go to waste, right? And if you don't have one, create one sometimes. Not this time, and I wouldn't see a tyrannical government that being out of the realm of possibility. So I understand that things need to move fast, but we also need to have some common sense. That is a necessity in these situations. And most honest doctors would tell you that cloth masks were going to do nothing for you from the beginning. Even Fauci said that at the beginning. And then that should have been people's clue to think, well, maybe there's something else up here when they were like, oh, now you have to mask.
He was all over the place with that thing, right? Mask, don't mask, and all that. And like in the first like 6 weeks of the pandemic, I think if I went out, I wore a mask. I think I was like bleaching my deliveries that were coming in and like that stuff. But then as more facts came out, we learned something, and then it didn't make any sense. I mean, it makes sense if you're in a laboratory environment,
Yes.
if you're a doctor performing surgery, but then in that situation, you have control over cleanliness and washing your hands. And do I want my surgeon to wear a mask before he vivisections me? Yes, I want before he opens me up. I would like that my doctor be wearing a mask.
Yeah,
that makes sense. But like for God's sakes, you go out to Home Depot and somebody's they're touching their face and all this kind of stuff. That's done. There's no level of protection that can be maintained in an environment. If everybody in the United States committed themselves to laboratory style environments and wearing a mask, maybe it would work, but that's not going to happen.
But that's not. There's no freedom there, and the worst thing is when they tried to do it in schools with elementary kids.
Agreed.
You know what I mean? This not only did it stunt development. I mean, a kid's ability to be able to watch your mouth while you speak and all of those things is imperative to their development. We see now that they're 2 years behind in the process of learning because of it. But the other part of it is kids aren't clean. The mask would be dirtier 15 minutes after they put it on than it would be any other time. So it was just complete lunacy. It really was.
Now, Mark, I don't know if you're a libertarian, maybe you're a conservative. I'm considering myself like a philosophical libertarian. So when it comes to things like drugs or vaccines and all that kind of stuff, I'm very laissez-faire. So what my view of things like, rushing a vaccine is that it should always be voluntary. It should always be that it should be your choice. You own your body. You should decide what gets put into it. It should never be a mandate. Right? Maybe there might be exceptions for something like the military because, if you're going to go into the Congo, the military should probably be able to require that you get a vaccine against malaria, right? Things like that. That's a different thing. But in regards to the question of a vaccine for the public and something being rushed, there should be accountability,
Absolutely.
right? The corporation should not be able to not be held accountable. Right. But in terms of you talked about the testing times and things like that. Right. I don't think there should be an FDA. I know conservatives probably disagree with libertarians on that. They want food and drug to be tested. It was Teddy Roosevelt who essentially created that institution. But if there wasn't an FDA, there wouldn't be requirements for drug testing times and things like that. People would be allowed to decide if they wanted to try things. Is that something that you're opposed to? Do you think that the government needs to have a central repository and tell companies you need to have at least 6 months before you do this? Because listen, if they can be sued, then I think that if you were talking about freedom earlier, people should have the freedom to try, shouldn't they?
Right. Yes. But I think for starters, if you're a good scientist, you have a rubric for medical trials. I mean, you don't need a government necessarily telling you have to do that, right? No, good scientists practice science in a way that would require those trials anyway. But I won't say that I think that people should have the ability to regulate through their elected officials. I don't know that there should be a big government bureaucracy that's constantly looking down on them. I think that the legislature has given over a lot of their power to big government bureaucracies like that. And they've done so because it offers them political cover. I do like the idea of term limits for anybody in a government bureaucracy if we're going to have them. You mentioned Vivek Ramaswamy, I'm doing an interview with him this morning, a presidential candidate, but he talks about this. He comes from a libertarian point of view, and he said, he's 8-year term limit for anybody in a Fauci-like position, or maybe even lower than that. So you're not having this tyranny of the administrative state if you have to have
that's like the deep state killing bill if I've ever heard one.
Exactly.
I'd love to hear something like that. If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, I'm Austin Peterson. We're speaking to our friend Mark from the Unwokable podcast. You can follow him on YouTube as well. Mark, one last question before I let you go. I saw that I think you saw me yesterday. I didn't know that was you in the car with our friend James Lindsay, who's going across Missouri, and he's talking. He's like the original anti-woke of all anti-wokes. And I heard that he's here and he's talking about school choice in Missouri.
Mhm.
And I know that this is something that you've talked about as well.
Mhm.
So I think Missouri right now is trying to pass school choice, some
Yeah.
conservative legislators. What's your take on it?
My take on school choice, I consider myself a little bit more libertarian than the libertarians on this because I the idea of school choice is great. I think if we can, decentralize and get more options, that's always a great thing. What I don't like is the idea that we can free kids from government oversight in education by injecting government money into private schools. So that makes me nervous because it name a government program that they've subsidized that they're on strings to. That makes me nervous. And
Sure.
so there has to be great protections for that. And I think James is with me on that, where we see a little bit of a danger of, okay, they're putting in the fish hook in the fish's mouth, and the government can at any time could pull it and set the hook.
That's
You know?
that's the libertarian argument from that
Okay.
angle, is that that money comes from that money comes with strings. But I mean, the problem is that it's kind of like you know w- there's the camel's nose under the tent argument, which we're making here, but then there's the argument on the other side, which is that at some point these kids have got to have an option. I mean, they're getting screwed. They only have 18 years to try and get a decent education,
Mhm.
and if they do get a chance to go to a private school, it's possible that the benefits might outweigh the pros might outweigh the cons in this scenario. Like the
May-
kids would be benefited by going to that better private school, but you think the private schools will be dragged down by allowing kids?
I can tell you this, that there private schools on the whole, I'm a teacher, a lifelong educator, right? So, and private, I've taught in public, private, and university. So, private schools are very woke. It's just you're not very hearing about that, and which is my issue. But I think it's a short-term solution, but it leads to very long-term problems because the government's not going anywhere, right? And if they put the hook in your mouth, we may get a really good short-term effect that comes from that, but the long-term effects, my kids, your grandkids could see the government injecting itself into private industry, into private schools for duration. Like, and once you get the government in, it's very hard to get them out.
You make a good point here. Do you come at it from, saying you're more libertarian than libertarians? Do you come at it originally, though, if we're talking about perfection, should there be public schools?
Well, and then again, I love Thomas Jefferson, right? And so I actually writing a dissertation on him and things. And he was very pro public schooling, but he mandated, like he was the head of the board of regents, for example, for the University of Virginia, and he said, if you're going to be a public school, you have to have a mandate to support the Constitution of the state and the government and the federal government for which you are residing.
Chartered.
Yeah, you have to have that as a regulation of the public school. What we don't have is that now. And so I like the idea of pre-1979 public schools, which no Department of Education, no federal Department of Education, no DESE, for example, right? Where you have 2,000 state employees whose only job is to go in and regulate rural schools. I would like to see a decentralization of public schools, right? And that way you have their true quote, and I hate using this term because it means something else, but a community school run by the local community.
Would you be in favor of school choice if it just meant that you could go to a different public school if you're choosing?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. No, 100%. I think
that could be a compromise.
no, if you could open it, if you could say, okay, the kids can go over here, but I don't think that the kid should or the school should necessarily be forced to take the child if it's, say, a very problem child or you're having all this stuff. But
there's always going to be exceptions to rules. But the thing is that, yeah, I understand private schools should be allowed to, allow anyone that they want or decide against allowing any student that they want. I mean, that's how it should be. But if you're getting government money and the money is going to the child, right? Well, let's not call it government money. Let's call it taxpayer money because it's not really government
But
money.
once the
It's our
government
money.
touches it,
Yeah,
they always put strings on it, man.
They always do. They always
yeah.
do. And, the devil's always in the details. I'd
Yeah.
like to see what Missouri's school choice bill would be before I
Sure.
would say, hey, I absolutely support this,
Yeah.
because it always gets
It gets
watered down
convoluted,
and
yeah,
convoluted.
yeah.
But something for, say, for example, allowing them to go to different public schools, that's something that a compromise that we could agree on. But the question of if they go to private schools, if it was just, whether, the private school could could reject them, would that also be something acceptable? Right?
I think that would be acceptable. The other thing that makes me nervous about private schools is that, just like a friend of mine in Oklahoma said, he said, transparency is for government, not for private industry. And so part of the reason we can see that all the things are going wrong in public schools because you can FOIA them. You elect the school board. You can go in and get the curriculum if you need to, using government mechanisms to do that because it's public. Once government money or the money passes the door of a private school, parents lose that kind of transparency, and oftentimes they are handed an NDA on the way in saying you can't say anything bad about the school, otherwise we're going to take your money and kick you out of the school.
Yeah.
And so it's a very complicated issue, but
it is.
I am pro school choice, but there needs to be a lot of
scrutiny on this. I like that. I like that, and it seems more definitely open-minded on that one. In regards to the question of like private transparency versus public transparency, yeah, there should be transparency when it comes to government and when it comes to how our money is being spent. I do like the idea of privacy when it comes to private property, including private corporations, including mine, especially because China steals so much of our intellectual property and things like that. I really tend to hold private property as sacrosanct. And I know a lot of my fellow Republicans in the party don't necessarily agree with me because there's certainly a very anti-corporate sentiment and very pro-populist sentiment that comes these days, which I think has definitely impinged on things like free trade and things like privacy and I was Twitter's a private company and can do what it wants before Elon Musk took it over. Now that's in my favor, but before 2-3 years ago when I was saying, even when I got suspended from Twitter, I was saying, hey, listen, Twitter should be able to do what they want to do. That's their own private platform. And all my Republican friends were like, no, we need to regulate them. Well, they were publicly traded, but that means that the stockholders are the ones who hold them accountable, not the government.
Right.
That's
now that we found out that the government was forcing them to do a lot.
That is unconstitutional and that is a crime, and the people who did it should be prosecuted. But the principle still stands. And the question of how are we going to get a government that's actually going to obey the Constitution? That's another problem entirely. But the principle of whether or not the corporation should be allowed to conduct its own terms of service, I think absolutely stands. And here's the thing, because we haven't regulated social media, because we've allowed them to continue to operate in such a way, look at what's happening to them. They're failing. Look at Meta. There are thousands of layoffs, right? Twitter taken over. It was an evil capitalist billionaire who solved the free speech problem of Twitter and exposed the government's wrongdoing. So there's a bit of an Ayn Rand, objectivist argument in there to be made. Mark, I want to give you an opportunity to plug your podcast, and you're going to talk to Vivek Ramaswamy. You're going to talk to presidential candidate podcast. That's very impressive. So tell us about your show and give us a plug.
Yeah, you can find me on YouTube at Unwokable Pod, Rumble as well, and all the podcasting channels, Spotify and Apple and all of that. I do a lot of talking about wokeness and the need to get that out of every part of our institutions any way we can. And I've guests like James Lindsay, Vivek Ramaswamy. I've had Eric Smith and lots of different guys. So yeah, I do. And I'm based out of Oklahoma, fighting it from there, but hoping to move back home.
You want to come back because
that's
right. You're from Jefferson City, Missouri. That's right.
Jaybirds, 2003.
And you're in Arkansas now?
No, Oklahoma.
Okay, I was gonna say it was Arkansas.
No,
we like Oklahoma.
We don't Arkansas.
We don't Arkansas, but we do Oklahoma. Check out the Unwokable podcast on YouTube as well as anywhere else you want to plug.
Rumble, Apple, Spotify, all the platforms.
Mark, thanks for coming to the studio today, man. It was good to meet you. We'll definitely have to have you back on the show. Thank you very much. If you like him, give him a follow. Mark Owsley of the Unwokable podcast. He's doing a little bit of a speaking tour here in the state of Missouri. He's in Oklahoma, but he wants to come back to Missouri. Maybe we can help make it happen. Make him a millionaire today by watching all of his shows over on YouTube. Hell, why don't you make me a millionaire today and visit AP for Liberty Shop. Get yourself some awesome, sweet Liberty swag. Every day, my lovely wife and I are dropping hot new products like government and taxes. It's the hottest new shirt on the block. If you get one now, you're going to beat the trend before I become a millionaire. I'm just too cool to talk to you. No, I'll always talk to you. We'll always be friends on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
American conservatism is distinct, like America is distinct from the United Kingdom. American conservatism's roots comes out of the Wild West, out of pioneerism. The difference between American conservatives and European conservatives is that Americans are cowboys. We are that God, guns, gold, and girls. It's wild here, and we should stay that way. We shouldn't allow a European version of conservatism to come and infect us here. We like it wide open spaces here, you know, deep in the heart of Texas and all that.
Hey there, it's your favorite Vice President Joe Biden. I wanted to talk to you today about the Wake Up America show, the best source for all your political news and commentary. But before I get started, let me just make sure I have all my notes in order. Okay, where was I? All right, the Wake Up America show. It's a great way to stay informed and make your voice heard. Boy, what was I saying again? Oh, right. The Wake Up America show. It's important that we all stay engaged and knowledgeable about what's going on in our country and, the thing. But hold on, where was I going with all this? Oh, yeah. The Wake Up America show. It's a fantastic resource. And if you really want to make a difference, man, you can sign up to be a monthly donor at wakeupAmericaShow.com/support. Now, where was I? Oh, that's right, the Wake Up America show. So if you want to stay woke and support a great cause, head on over to wakeupAmericaShow.com/support and sign up to be a monthly donor today. And if you're feeling generous, you can even give a donation in my name. Thanks for listening, and keep on keeping on, America. Come on, man.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. How are you feeling today? Did you like the show so far? Good, it's almost over. I know. Don't be so disappointed, but I've got some good news for you. I forgot yesterday to do the giveaway. I always do for the last week of each month a gift giveaway from the AP for Liberty shop for our monthly subscribers. So if you're not a monthly subscriber, what are you doing? You need to join the club, right? But if you are, you're about to win something for free from the AP for Liberty shop by random drawing. And here's the thing. If you're even a $2.99 a month subscriber, you could get a $20 t-shirt. You could get like a $30 50 caliber bullet bottle opener. So, I mean, you could end up winning more than you pay into the show. So here's how you enter to win. If you are a monthly subscriber here on YouTube, like a $2.99 a month Freedom Ninja, which I see Robbie Thurman's there. We've got a few of our friends that are monthly subscribers that are in the live stream this morning. Camellia is one, and so many others are. And if you are, you get entered in to the drawing. So guess what? The winner of the drawing, but I need to get the stinking drum roll sound that I can push here for the drawings. The gift certificate for a free product, the AP for Liberty shop winner is Pam Ames. Congratulations to Pam Ames. You are the winner. If she's not here this morning, then I'll send her a message and let her know she can go over to AP for Liberty shop and have her pick any item that she would like from the shop. Pam gets to get a free item from AP for Liberty shop, and if you are a monthly subscriber, then hopefully you'll get to win next time. If you're not, make sure that you join us over at AP for Liberty by subscribing either here on YouTube, or if you know some people are savvy to tech and they're like, I know that YouTube takes a pretty good chunk of what I give to Austin, and I want all of my money to go to Austin if I'm going to donate to the Wake Up America show so we can continue to spread the message of economic freedom and personal liberty. I want the show to continue to grow. Well, then you've got to go over to wakeupamericashow.com/support. And on the support page is where you can go and you can do your little things. So congratulations to Pam Ames. You are the winner. And one other thing, I hate to scrunch you up with this and I put this stuff in back to back, but I did almost forget to talk to you about my friends over at fieldofgreens.com. Yes. These are my awesome friends. And here's the thing. So Steffi and I, she's super excited about this. This is my new deal with Brickhouse Nutrition, where they want me to have this delicious health drink and share with you my progress. And I'll tell you, the nice thing about Field of Greens, which you put in a nice cold glass of water, you shake it up, you get your 6 servings of fruit and vegetables a day in a convenient powder form. Because honestly, who's going to eat 6 servings of fruit or vegetables a day? 6 cups. I'm not going to do that, okay? Do I eat more fruit and vegetables than I used to? Yes. Is it because I'm getting to be an old fart? Yes. 42 years old, just turned? Yes. Okay. But here's the thing. Usually I don't eat or drink like the health food stuff because I can't take supplements because it interacts with other stuff, but I can drink my vegetables and fruits. And you say to yourself, oh, that doesn't sound good. It sounds like some kind of green kale smoothie thing. It's not. It's actually super delicious. My friends over at Brickhouse Nutrition have invented this Field of Greens superfood. So all the superfoods you'd eat in a day, like oatmeal or bananas or whatever it is that are considered superfoods, those are all in this. And you can get it done in 1 drink a day. And you're like, oh, do I have to choke it down? You're going to smell this when you get it, because you're going to go to fieldofgreens.com and use code AP for Liberty. You're going to smell this and be like, that smells like green, but it's going to taste awesome, because once you mix it in water, it activates and it tastes really good. This one especially is my favorite, wild berry. Put it in an ice cold glass of water with ice, shake it up, drink it. You just taken your serving, 6 servings of fruit and vegetables for the day, only 10 calories, but you get all of the nutrients that you need. And here's the thing, it comes with a money-back guarantee. That's the really good part about that. So if you try fieldofgreens.com, you use code AP for Liberty, and you go to your doctor the next time, and if you've been using it, and you go to your doctor, and your doctor doesn't say something like, you're definitely improving, your health is improving, they'll give you your money back. So what's better than that? A money-back guarantee? Check them out at fieldofgreens.com. Use code AP for Liberty. I don't know if I can get that on the camera. Let's see. There you go. fieldofgreens.com. Highly endorse and recommend. Congratulations to Pam Ames. All right, so now it's time for me to go. Now it's time to say goodbye to all our family. Oh, wait, one last thing before I go. I got a nice little tip. Do you use an iPhone? FYI. So real quick, I want to let you know. So if you did the latest update on your iPhone, they did this thing where they slowed down your charging. Yeah, because Apple thinks that they're going to save the planet by using this new Save the Planet clean energy charging feature. So if you have downloaded the latest iPhone update, Apple has added this clean energy charging feature, and it's slowed down how fast your phone charges. Okay, so you can turn it off, right? iOS is going to recharge your phone's battery when the electrical grid uses cleaner energy sources. It will only recharge it under those circumstances. Clean energy charging. It says, in your region, iPhone will try to reduce your footprint by selectively charging when your carbon emission electricity is available, but clean energy is blah, blah, blah. Turn it off. Clean energy charging, right? Optimized battery charging is another recently introduced iPhone feature. It combines with clean energy charging to learn your charging preferences and try to modify the charging speed appropriately. Here's how to disable it. Access the Settings app on your iPhone. Select Battery within the Settings app. It's often faster to use the app's search option instead of scrolling through all the settings. Select Battery Health and Charging disable clean energy charging. Or optionally, you can also disable optimized battery charging, although there are no reports at this time that also slows down charging. So again, you got an iPhone, your phone's charging slow, go to settings, select battery, health and charging, disable clean energy charging, and tell the environmentalists to go to hell. Thanks for watching the Wake Up America show. Congratulations, Pam Ames, for winning the awesome merch over at AP for Liberty Shop. Are you going to go to AP for Liberty Shop after the show? Because I'm going to go over there. I'll meet you there. Yeah, click like on the YouTube video before you go. Love you. See you tomorrow. Bye.
I like shooting things, but whenever I can't shoot something, I like to cut things. My life isn't all about shooting and stabbing and cutting, though. Sometimes I have to do actual work, but when I work, I still like to have fun. And there's nothing less fun than trying to cut with a crappy knife. Thankfully, from the ancient sect of Christian knights, who also loved cutting and stabbing, comes a new implement that has received my personal blessing, the Templar knife. Like the ancient sword of Excalibur, you don't choose a Templar knife, it chooses you. You just decide what kind you want on the website first, however, and then order it online, and then it chooses you. The Templar knife comes in a variety of shapes. As a man of culture and taste, I have decided I will never use a terrible knife again. And thanks to the inspiration provided by this excellent product, I have decided to launch a new crusade against anyone using less than superior knives. Join me, brothers and sisters, by visiting uppercuttactical.com/pages/Templar-knives. That's a lot of slashes. For that, you'll need a Templar knife. For 10% off, use code AP for Liberty and join me in a quest for glory, for liberty, for Christendom, for the Templar knife. Get yours today.
Fire.
Hello, this is Barack Obama, and let me tell you why Austin Petersen stinks, and you should never pay attention to anything that he has to say. First of all, he's a libertarian, and we all know libertarians are idiots. They don't realize how important government is to everything that we do. I recently became aware that Austin has opened up a libertarian shop at apforlibertyshop.com. Now, I'm asking you as a personal favor to me that you never ever visit apforlibertyshop.com. With all of the great Liberty merchandise there, the last thing that we need to do is to get people spreading this message around the country, because then they might start thinking that they don't need government. And that's the last thing that good Democrats like us want. So if you love democracy, like me, and hate freedom, then don't visit AP for Liberty Shop. Like I said, whatever you do, do not visit apforlibertyshop.com. I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level. But law alone cannot make men see right.